Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Three elite legal heavyweights just stepped in to Diddy's appeal. Diddy's appeal could set precedent. That means it could set the way the course of sentencing go for future inmates for what they call acquitted conduct. Because we know he was acquitted of the X charges and the RICO, but yet they still used them in order to enhance him. And these three legal experts, starting with Douglas A. Berman, Ohio State University, so you understand, right? He's a sentencing expert from Ohio State. Then you also got John Blume, right? That's his name, John Blume, right? That's John Blume. John Blume is a constitutional law from Cornell University. You know, he does his thing. These is all heavyweights that stepped in. Then we also have John Gleeson, right? He's a retired federal Brooklyn judge and has sentenced many people the same as they did Diddy. We're going to speak on why and how are they allowed to get involved in this case, and it's legal. All right? You know what it is, Unique Mecca audio, man. Like I said, three legal minds, heavyweights in the game, stepped in because they feel that, Judge, doing Diddy's case overstepped and overplayed his boundaries instead of stayed in his place. And like I said, this is going to shape the way future sentences is going to play out with acquitted conduct. So this is bigger than Diddy. Diddy's making precedent right now when they rule on this case in New York. We're talking about, like I said, Douglas A. Berman, right? Who else we got here? John Blume, John Gleeson. These are people who shape how judges think. They don't jump into cases lightly, meaning if they feel that a case is coming up and it's something that would set the precedent, like the future roadmap, then they get involved, And we're going to speak on why they get involved and how they get involved. Now, how are they even allowed to do this, right? That's what you want to know. Put in the comments. How do you feel why they legally allowed to do this? They filed what was called an amicus curiae, right? Amicus curiae, that's how it's pronounced. Amicus curiae, right? Brief, that means a friend of the court. So they going in as a friend of the court to say that we see injustice going on and we want to get a chance to have our word spoken as well. Translation, they're not defending Diddy. So they're not there to defend Diddy. They did to set the precedent for how future sentencing should go with acquitted conduct. They're warning the judge about dangerous precedent, very dangerous precedent, meaning if the appellate court allow it to stand where Diddy's judge used charges that Diddy was acquitted of, then what was the purpose in having the jury even deliberate on the case? They should have just left it up to the judge. And that's why they call it that Diddy's judge was the 13th juror. That's how they put it, right? Now, they're warning that the courts are about to go into dangerous precedent. You notice I said that word 3 times already. Not precedent, precedent. That means that how things will go in the future. The core issue is acquitted conduct. A jury acquitted Diddy on certain charges. That means not guilty charges, meaning the jury acquitted him of these charges. They said he wasn't guilty, but then the judge came back and he used it against him. Now, but the sentencing judge still used those same allegations to increase Diddy's sentence to the 50 months. These legal experts say that undermines the jury's system. That undermines the purpose of the jury. That turns trials into suggestions, not decisions. So in other words, that turns trials into people saying that the jury just made a suggestion. The jury didn't make a decision, because if they let Diddy's judge get away with this, that means that it don't matter what a jury rule, that the future judges can just turn around and still sentence you for what your jury of your peers felt you was not guilty of. Why this affects everyone. This isn't about one celebrity, you know. This affects everyday defendants, jury trials nationwide, the meaning of a verdict. If judges can override acquittals at sentencing, juries lose power. Then what is the sense in having a juror if the judge can override acquitted conduct at sentencing? The jury's got to lose power. Judges, again, judges are going unchecked for them to be able to do this. They should be some type of checks and balance. Do you agree? Put it in the comments and let me know if you believe there should be some checks and balance. Why these judges stepped in? They're protecting the role of jurors. These judges stepped in because they're protecting the roles of jurors, the legitimacy of verdicts, public trust in the courts. Because the same way you feel that he was found guilty of X, Y, Z, then you should accept that verdict the same as, you know, he was acquitted of B, D, and G. If you understand where I'm going with this. The role of jurors, right? Public trust, now, their messages, right? If this stands, this is what the judge's messages are. If this stands, no acquittal is truly safe. That means if you get acquitted of something, that don't mean nothing. You know, no acquittal is truly safe. What's at stake going forward, right? What's at stake going forward for the legal precedent of what's going on here, on how people is going to be sentenced in the future? If the appeals succeed, right? If the prosecution win and they succeed, acquitted conduct may be limited. That means, all right, you was acquitted of it, so what? We're still going to give you time. But I was acquitted of it. How could you give me time? Of course, that's what you're going to be saying. Now, the jury verdicts regain real weight, you know? If it fails, right? If it fails, judges keep broad discretion. If it fails, judges keep broad discretion. So like I said, if the appeal succeeds, if Diddy wins the appeal, right? The acquitted conduct may be limited to just that, right? The jury verdicts regain real weight. If that fails, judges keep broad discretion. Not guilty becomes negotiable. All right, that's what that means. If the prosecution wins, that means that the not guilty verdict becomes negotiable if the judge wants to go with it or not. Now, you don't have to like Diddy. This isn't about Diddy, or this ain't no about fandom, being a big fan. This is about how justice works. This is about how justice works. And that's why these judges stepped in, so you understand, right? Let me ask you these questions, right? Should a judge be allowed to punish someone for charges a jury rejected and found them not guilty of? That's one. Two, does not guilty still mean not guilty in a federal court to you, being that they was allowed to use juries Diddy's not guilty verdict against them? Are judges gaining too much power at sentencing? Put that in the comments. Let me know. Do you feel judges are gaining too much power during the sentencing? Would this worry you if it were a regular person, not a celebrity? Like, if this was your uncle, your brother, your father, your mother, would this worry you? Or because this is celebrity, you think less of it? Should acquitted conduct be banned nationwide? Do you feel that acquitted conduct should be banned nationwide from being used at sentencing? Or should it be used? Put it in the comments. Does this weaken faith in the jury trials to you? Are juries becoming symbolic instead of powerful? Next question, should sentencing be strictly limited to convictions only? That's a good one. Should sentencing be limited to convictions only? Or should they be able to use stuff that you was not even found guilty of, stuff you wasn't even charged with? They can say, yeah, well, your girlfriend also said that, you know, I got a letter from your girlfriend said you did X, Y, Z, so I'm gonna bang you out. That's equivalent to because we riding. That's equivalent to Cassie sending in the letter saying not to let Diddy out. The jury already spoke, and here go a co-defendant, a witness that is saying don't let him out, you know? Now, should sentencing be strictly limited to convictions only, right? Is this justice or judicial overreach? If you were a juror, how would this make you feel if you find out that your verdict could be tossed out and the judge could just find the person guilty that you just acquitted or not guilty after you just found him guilty listening to all that evidence? Now, like I said, John Blume, he's from Cornell Law School, right? Now, he decided to step in because he didn't like what was going on with Diddy and how, you know, not so much Diddy because y'all gonna jump on that. He didn't like how things was playing out, you know, with the judge overstepping his boundaries, as he said, and winds up giving him more time for conduct that he was acquitted of. Do you think that's right? Y'all put that in the comments, because we also got John Gleeson, right? He's from New York University, so we all the way from Ohio, Cornell, and New York University, NYU. Big round of applause to all three colleges. That's why y'all, relax, please relax. Gunshots. That's why y'all should stay in school. Not only do the right thing, but be positive and make a change in your community, because it starts with us. We have to come together. Now, these fine judges, they felt as if it was unjustified for the judge in Diddy's case to up his sentence based on conduct that he was acquitted of. Do you feel the judge has a right to do that? Put in the comments. Or do you feel that the judge had no right to do that? All right? Put in the comment. Make sure you check out the Little Dirk, update that I give, because that gets real deep. And I drop a lot of jewels in and give you all the legal ramifications so y'all understand what's going on. And please subscribe to my daughter's YouTube channel at Unique Mecca Audio and Real Boss TTTV. Also at YouTube and Unique Mecca Audio Prison Stories to hear my prison stories. Let's keep it moving, because this is how we get down. All right?
Cheers to the crime.
Can of 26, back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions is a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Take a little gully posse and put it in hall. You cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you can go and visit. Then you can consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get views from a kingpin. I went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. Did not pay attention with the stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never swilling to the cops, make the audio.